G'day, Stu from UAVfutures here, and today, well, jokes aside, say whatever you like about my dodgy intros, but essentially today, what we've got, this is the Hawk 5 from Emax, and I'm going to tell you why this is the most game-changing bind and fly you have ever seen. I've ever seen in the history of the hobby. You know, I've reviewed a lot of bind and fly drones, and we've had some top-tier ones, some rubbish ones. This one right here, it's a 5-inch ready to rock and roll FPV racer that's coming in at an amazing price, like for 250 bucks. You might be thinking, whoa, that's more expensive than some of the others, but let me tell you, you have never seen performance like this. This is like a $500, that's how it feels, a $500 racing drone that is just gonna blow your absolute socks off. When I took it out and flew it around, that's why it's a little bit dirty, because I've been doing a lot of testing with this. I want to put it through its paces, and I have been blown away. So it is such an exciting time for our hobby. Nowadays, you don't need to build whatsoever to have top tier, and I mean, if more bind and flies came out like this, I'm sorry to say, I would probably quit building. That's how good this drone is. It is just rock solid, and I can't wait to show you guys what this thing is all about. So this is the part one. This is where we put it on the bench, look at the text and the specs. If you want to see part two, that's where we take it out the field, rip it around, hit it with the speed gun and crash test Cal. That little card should pop up there. That's at the part two, but this is the part one. So we're going to be finding out what makes this drone so special and why, if you want to get a bind and fly that's absolutely rock solid, this is probably the best option on the market to date, bar none. And a bit of a shout out to my subscribers. I want to give back this drone to you guys, so there should be like a bit of a giveaway, official rules. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that sort of stuff. But what I want to know is, I always talk in US dollars, so it's around the $250 US mark. I want to know where my audience is, where people are watching from, so what is it, and in your local currency value. So if it was like the Australian dollar, I think it's around 300 bucks. You know, what is it in Indonesia, or what is it in France? How much is this in your local currency? So drop those in the comments down below. But let's kick it off with this part one, the bench breakdown of the Hawk 5, and find out why this is the most game-changing bind and fly we've ever seen in the history of UAV. Alrighty, here it is on the bench, the Hawk 5, and we're quickly going to get some of the little boring extras out of the way, but you do get a couple of different antenna options. So if you want to use a little dipole, it comes with this, or something that's nice, you actually get sort of that extension pigtail, and you get 2 pagoda antennas. So I don't know why they give you 2, but that is, you know, that's not really expected in today's bind and flies. I love it, but it's just, you know, a sign of this quad, everything to come, it goes above and beyond. So we're going to put those 2 antennas to the side. You do get some spare props, some extra little nuts and bolts and zip ties, all those sorts of things, but you get 1 extra set as props as well. But essentially what I'm excited about is this unit right here. Now the first thing first, what I want to do, let's stick it on the scales to start off our overview. It's coming in at 276 grams. So look, you can build lighter, but this is, I'm going to say, lighter than 80% of the racers out there, and it's also very, very sturdy. So don't let this thing fool you because it's a bind and fly. This thing, it's a 5-inch racer. It's designed to go very, very fast. It is smooth like silk, like you wouldn't believe. Get that zip tie out of the way. Smooth like silk, like you wouldn't believe. And for a bind and fly, I got to tell you, I have been totally blown away with this. You're going to hear me talking about how much I love this through this entire review. So if you don't like amazing quads that fly really well, don't be watching these videos. Now what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going through the text and the specs. We're going to start off, look at the components, look at the design, the quality, then talk about the pros and the cons. But look, overall, this thing, it comes in a box like this. You put the props on, you bind it up. I've got the Free Sky version. I'll link them down below anyway, and then you are just off to the races to have a good time. And in the past, a lot of people always sort of shun away from bind and flies. They've been getting better, but they have not been like this. That's what I want to stress the most. This thing, it's like someone built it themselves with top-notch components. The tune on here is absolutely perfect, and you are just going to have a beautiful flight experience. I can fully see in the future, you know, some winners of some big events. Someone rocks up, they've all got their premium races. Someone rocks up with one of these, well, they are just as deadly on the race course with this as a top-tier $500 racer. Anyway, what we should do, let's take these props off, kick it off, and then start with the components and get into the nitty-gritty of the Hawk 5. Alrighty, so we've taken the props off. What we've got, these are the tri-blade Emax flow props, and let me tell you, these things, they're a really nice prop as well. We do compare them in the speed run to the Emax A-Vans, and I've got to tell you, these things are no slouches. They absolutely rip, especially when they're coupled with the motors that we've got on here. So I'm going to put these to the side, and now let's get into the nitty-gritty. So the first thing, we're going to start at the outside in and work our way towards the internals, but the first things first, I want to talk about the actual frame. So it's made up of 4 individual arms. You can see it's got some little bumpers on the outside to protect your motors. The carbon in the arms, it's 5mm thick, and it feels very rigid. And one thing I do like as well, and I didn't show this at the start because I wanted to include it in this part, is you get a spare arm. So traditionally in the past, one of the big criticisms I have of these sort of really light looking frames is they can be a bit breakable, and I don't like the disposable arms that they often have. But it's great that this thing actually ships with one in the kit as well. So if you're going to be busting up an arm in an unlucky crash, you do get a spare arm. Now they all butt up towards each other, so there's not really too much room for flex or anything like that. You can see in the middle there, I'll flash some pictures on the screen, and then underneath that we've got this sort of nice brace plate that's very thin profile, and it's got a nice sort of rubber part here, so we're going to be holding our battery nice and tight. Now on top of that we've got our top plate, which you'd think would be pretty standard, but they've also done some really cool things here as well. You can see on the outside it's actually made up of 3 different plates. So you've got your base plate, I guess, let me rephrase that. You've got your standard top plate on here, and I'll flash another picture on the screen, but then on top of that you've got these 2 sort of side braces, and that means you're going to have a very rigid top part. I think this frame is going to hold up pretty well in crashes because you've just got so much extra carbon in here, giving it so much more strength. And on one part, speaking of the frame as well, we've got our little camera protector here, and I'm going to say that's not doing a good enough job. I would like some more camera protection. That's probably one of my biggest criticisms of this quad. These cheap plates that come out the front here, they're so close, and I'm expecting some people will be putting some 3D printed ones and making their own and all that sort of stuff, because this is going to be a very popular quad. But at the moment I do wish it had a little bit better camera protection. Now if we get into the actual components itself, let's start on the outside. I'll flash a picture on the screen, but these are the Emax light spec, or the LS 2206 2300 kV. A very nice motor. Same sort of motors that I had on the Jardina, but something that is interesting with this one, for such a light quad, usually people put like a 2600 kV on there, and I was a little bit skeptical, and I don't know why they didn't put the 2600 kV. Maybe they'll offer that option in the future, and it wouldn't be too hard just to sort of swap them out. But on this one, we've got the 2300 kV version. I was going to be a bit skeptical until I flew the thing, until I knew how it felt on the sticks, and I was like, well, Emax, they know exactly what they're doing. Whoever's been designing this quad, the way it flies, I was like, well, I'm not going to complain, because these motors, coupled with the props and the ESCs, it is just, I'm going to keep saying it, absolutely incredible. So a great motor on the outside there. Then you can see, of course, we've got no ESCs on the arm, so that means it should be slicing through the air a little bit more as well. What we do have is an F4 Emax Magnum stack, and I'm going to leave a little review of this entire stack up here. But what it is, it's your ESCs, so your 30 amp BioHeli S ESC, it's rocking D-Shot. On top of that, we've got our F4 Omnibus, F4 flight controller with Betaflight OSD. This is all sort of one nice little stack, and that's why it looks so nice as well, and it helps keep the weight down. And then over this side, we've got a VTX, our 40 channel VTX. It doesn't have smart audio, but you can see this little part in the top here. It's very easy to see exactly what channel you're on, and I like that. I know in the TBS unifiers and stuff, you've got to count the LEDs and all those sorts of things. That drives me nuts. I really like how you can easily access the button right here on the outside and see exactly what channel you're on. I'm a big fan of having those nice, easy to read displays. And then of course, for us free sky pilots out there with the Tyrannus or whatever you're flying with, this thing, it binds up straight to the Tyrannus. So I really like that. I think that's the most popular radio system in our hobby, and that's great. If you've got a Tyrannus, you can just get one of these. You don't need to do anything, and you're ready to rock and roll. Now on the back, you can see we've got this huge capacitor right here, so that means you're going to have squeaky clean video. It is, I guess, susceptible a little bit to vibration, so I would like to put a bit more hot glue on there or something like that, just to sort of give this thing a little bit more strength. Maybe zip tie it down somewhere, or you know, just to sort of have it not floating so loosely. I am worried about that a little bit in crashes. I think it's going to be easy to fix. You know, just be mindful that if you get one, maybe strengthen up with a bit of hot glue and some zip ties just to make it so it can't move around whatsoever. We've got a buzzer in here. On the front, we've got another star of the show. So we've got a Foxeer camera in here, and let me tell you, the camera is absolutely beautiful when you're flying it around. No noise whatsoever, but it's a 2.1mm lens, which means you're going to get a big, wide field of view. But on that note, when this thing, it goes so quick, I felt like, you know, I couldn't get enough camera angle. I wanted it to be tilting more because it had so much power. If you're sort of in the vertical plane or whatsoever, it is so easy just to be punching up and down. So you need to be very careful with your throttle management, because this thing has power galore, especially because it's so light. So for me, I've got my camera angle absolutely set to max. Now I did mention the antennas before, so we've got this little dipole as well, and if you do want to just take it off, it's very easy. You can clip this in if you want to put in a more serious antenna and put in one of these pagodas. So these things are a little bit more fragile. I'm a big fan of this, but I know it's some races as well, and that's what this is after. If you can take this thing to the races, they might specify that you've got to have a sort of polarized antenna. But I also want to mention too, these are left-hand polarized antennas. So the two you get here, or the two that came in my kit, I don't know if it's meant to be one each. I'd like it if it was right-hand polarized, left-hand polarized, but for me, it came with two left-hand polarized ones. So you are probably not going to be interfering with most people in the hobby, because I know most people, they seem to fly on right-hand polarized. So that's nice, but I do wish that Emax had sent out one version of each, a right hand and a left hand. Now, I guess moving on, talking about the design. Now, look, as far as the design goes, it's nothing groundbreaking, but what it does well. It's a strong, rigid, very light frame that's going to hold up great in crashes. I like how you get the spare arm, and also you've got some of these nice little extras too, like sort of having the sort of braces on the top. I think it's been really, really well designed, and, you know, with these little bumpers for the motors, all that sort of stuff. The one part, I know I keep talking about it, I would like to change is this camera protection. That needs to be different. If it doesn't have to do too much more, it just comes out a little bit more, you're going to have much better camera protection. Now, you might be unlucky, but I think if you hit a flag or something like that, you're going to be asking to break this camera in a hard crash, and that's just such a shame, because if they could fix that, this thing, it would be close to perfection. So that's the only design flaw, but on that, I'm just going to give it, you know, it's not innovative, but I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 for what it does and its function. Maybe 8.5, because of what it does it well. It's a fast racer, it's very strong, and this thing, after flying it, just rips beautifully. Now, I guess moving on to the quality of the thing, I'm going to put it up there around an 8. The carbon I'm really happy with. I love the quality of the components, the motors, all that sort of stuff. But some people in the past, they've had trouble with the Emax stacks. I haven't had any trouble whatsoever. I've probably used about 4 of them. They've never missed a beat, but I have seen some reports where people, they're not the biggest fan of these. So I can't really comment on their experiences, but for me, I know this stack, it's been absolutely rock solid. I'm a big fan of that. And yeah, all the solder joints, everything in here, the quality is definitely there. And it's great how it's all Emax. Like, they definitely know what they're doing. They've been around for a long time, and they're really, like, now making absolutely top tier stuff. Another little nice quality feature is they've actually put a little bit of glue over the little UHFL connector to stop your antenna popping off, all that sort of stuff. I think that's a great little touch, so that's going to save your VTX. They've got some nice rubber parts holding down your wires, and they've even zip tied, finally a company's listening, they've zip tied down your XT60 lead. So in a big crash, if your battery does get jettisoned, it's not going to be ripping off the pads or off the board or anything like that. I'll flash a picture on the screen of that as well. And then you get some nice little extras that they didn't have to include, but it's just great to have them. So, you know, nice rubberized sticky Velcro pad. The battery strap, well, I'd probably like a bit of a higher quality battery strap, but that's very easily fixed. And yeah, overall, I think what they do for the quality is definitely there. Emax, you've done a great job again. Now, I guess moving on, let's talk about the pros and the cons, and let's get the con out of the way. For me, camera protection. Okay, we've talked about it. It doesn't offer the best camera protection. It should be easily fixed in the future, and you're going to have to be pretty unlucky if you do break it anyway, but I would like it fixed nonetheless. The other con, well, you get 2 left-hand polarized antennas, and look, normally we wouldn't be saying that's an issue, but they can just make it so much better if they gave us one of each direction, right-hand and left-hand polarized, and other than that, I can't really see any more cons whatsoever. Let's talk about the pros. The price. It's $250 or whatever it is in your currency. You know, definitely put those in the comments down below. But $250, and the first pro I want to talk about as well, and we can't see it in this video, that's why it's going to be in the part 2, and that should be linked down below as well. This thing screams and flies absolutely deliciously. It's beautiful, and especially for the price, I have never seen a quad fly so well for the money. So this is my recommendation if someone says, hey, I want to get into the hobby, what's a great drone that I can get it's not super expensive, but it's still a pretty good one? This is it. This is the money right here. This is what I expect many people to be flying. Whether you're beginners, whether you're serious experts, you know, whether you're pro professional racers, this thing has got you covered. And look, for me, like, I've got so many drones, and this thing flew so well, so I know I'm going to be a bit sneaky here, but before I upload this video, because I expect these things to sell out pretty quickly, I'm going to go and I'm going to buy myself some more of these, because they're that good, plain and simple. Now, another pro, look, they get a spare arm, they're light, so they should hold up pretty well in crashes. The speed is off the chain, and the handling is absolutely delicious. Everything they've done here, you get some spare props, the extra antennas, everything that Emax has done or been doing, I reckon, has led up to this point. They've obviously listened to the community, because there hasn't been a bind and fly like this, especially from a big vendor like Emax, where they give you a box and inside is such a beautiful machine. But look, that's it on the bench for the Hawk 5. You know, I'm a massive fan of it. The cons and the pros, everything weighed up like that. Besides the camera protection, it's a beautiful drone. Emax has been in the game for a long time, and I feel like everything they've been doing, they've been listening to the community. It's led up to this moment right here, and as a result, we've got something really special that is going to change our industry for the better, you know, and it's going to make other vendors sit up and take notice and think, well, if they've done that, what else can they do? It's very, very exciting times. But at the moment, Emax is definitely in the lead when it comes to a good value, cheap, well, cheap is relative, but cheap for what you get, in my opinion, good value racer that it's just amazing. Alrighty, so there it is. There's my part 1, my bench breakdown of the Hawk 5, and overall, I mean, for the price, this thing, the components in here, the way the frame goes together, it is absolutely gorgeous. I've seen enough frames and enough drones in my time to know when the king comes around, well, this thing is going to absolutely rip at some races. I mean, if you pulled up to some races and you had one of these, no one's going to bat an eye. I could definitely see people, I mean, winning the top tier, multi-GP, you know, the best of the best with a drone like this. There is absolutely no shame nowadays in having a bite and flight, especially when they are this good. So anyway, what do you guys think? Drop your comments down below. There's still a few little things I would like to change, like the camera protection, maybe a bit better protection on the cap and all those sorts of things, but overall, look, 10 out of 10. I'm absolutely blown away, but I'd love to know what you guys think as well. Drop your comments down below. Make sure if you want to enter that giveaway, putting it down in your local currency so I can find out how much it is where you're from. Subscribe for my FPV related content, and what we should do, let's go and watch that part 2 now, because this thing, it's like a simulator. It's like it's on rails. You guys are going to froth when you see just how fast this thing rips around the test track. So, other than that, I already said the subscribe part, so happy flying! Alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page, because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying!